But I came out shaking because it was so ferocious. And then he went to jail. So that was good, wasn't it?
Well, first of all, thank you
It's all right.
for sitting down with me to talk about you.
I told you I would have paid good money to get out of this.
Well, we're here now. My first question is, do you ever get nervous for an interview?
No, I get keyed up for interviews. You know, people who I don't get nervous anymore.
Did you ever get nervous during your career?
Yeah.
And what did you get nervous about?
Saying the wrong thing, or not saying the right thing, or not asking the right question. And I still, I don't get nervous about not asking the right question, but I berate myself for not asking the right question regularly. So it's not that I'm super comfortable now, it's just that it doesn't evidence itself as nervousness, it evidences itself, can you say that even?
I don't even know what that means.
As, guilt.
Okay.
Guilt. The ever-present guilt.
Okay. And at the beginning of your career, were you ever intimidated by certain people? And did that play into your nerves?
Intimidated? No, not really. I mean, some people were kind of scary to talk to. I mean, I came after Muldoon, right? So if you're kind of an old journo, everybody reaches for the Muldoon example, who was truly scary. I only spoke to him in his declining years where he'd mellowed a little. But compared with that, nobody's really scary. And also, people... Margaret Atwood, oddly enough, getting away from the politics, Margaret Atwood is kind of deliberately scary because she's got that kind of persona.
Yeah.
But you just kind of stand up and push back and you're fine. So no, I don't get intimidated. I mean, some people turn nasty. That's not very pleasant. Okay.
Well, you have had an incredible career. You have presented on all
It's
of
been
our...
a long career, Te Aniwa. It's been a long career.
You presented for all of our flagship news shows, Morning Report, Checkpoint, 9 to Noon, for 9 years, I think.
Something.
9 years.
I seem to think that I drew the line before I hit the decade on that one.
9 years. Do you remember your first time on air?
Ever?
Oh,
well, my first job with Radio New Zealand was in Gisborne. And so I probably don't remember it because I was so panic-stricken, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I used to have to read the news as well. And I used to hyperventilate sometimes. That was... You asked me if I got nervous.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm at that stage where I present midday and my heart goes crazy every time there's a 5-second window where it happens. And then I go to air and it's fine.
Yeah.
But it still happens.
You have to trust that it's going to be fine, right?
Yeah.
It's like stage fright. You feel your bowels loosening, but as soon as you get out there, it's going to be all right. You just have to focus on it.
Over the years, you've interviewed thousands of people, all sorts of people from all walks of life. I want to know, do you have a favourite interview?
I knew you were going to ask me that question. I don't have a favourite interview. Okay. Because every week I have a favourite interview, and every so often you get an interview, you think, oh my God, I love that person. The most favourite interviews are the ones that go in different directions, the ones that you don't expect to go somewhere and you end up there. And that's one of the great things about Saturday morning, that you've got time to go there. 9 to noon, similarly, you don't have to, chop it off just when things are getting interesting. Yeah. And also, one of the pluses of the way things are running now is that if you've got an interview, if you do a pre-recorded interview, for example, which we may have 1 or 2 of on a Saturday morning, if you go longer, it can go on the website. So nothing's wasted. We might only be able to run 30 minutes of it on air, but if we've got 45 minutes, the rest of it can go on the website.
Okay.
I love that.
Well, this might be an easier question then. Do you have a most dreaded interview or an interview that went terribly wrong?
Oh, God, yes.
Stayed with you?
No, I have a minute. Yeah, well, that's the thing. See, how negative is that? I've got a list of interviews that went terribly, terribly wrong. I mean, virtually the first interview I did for 9 to Noon, was with the famous Sir Geoffrey Archer, who people still talk about that interview. You know, it was just vile. And I had no idea.
Why was it vile for people who haven't seen it?
He attacked me and said things like, I've heard all about you. You know, I had a lot of... That was in the national government years. And I had come off Morning Report where I'd given a lot of ministers a hard time. I suppose that was my job.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be National or Labour. But he had a lot of mates in the National Party. And I think they'd said to him, oh, she's a terrible, terrible woman. And so he said to me, I've heard a lot about you and I'm not going to take any rap. And off he went.
And he said this during the interview?
Yes. I know, it was amazing.
How did you respond to that?
I can't remember. You'd have to listen to it now. It's blanked out.
Yeah.
But I came out shaking because it was so ferocious. And then he went to jail. So that was good, wasn't it?
And do those moments stick with you, or have you found that you can just let it go?
Oh no,
it's just in the past?
That's the scar tissue's grown over that one. Scar tissue grows over them, you know, where they just become kind of relics rather than active wounds.
Now,
have you ever had that thing?
Where someone's attacked me?
Yeah.
No.
You've never had an interview where people go, you've got your head up your ass, which was what Tony Parsons told me, I think, first off.
Oh, really?
Interviewing him about his novel, and read the introduction and asked him the first question. He said, you've got your head up your ass. And so that didn't go very far. Nobody's ever said that to you, right?
No, but if someone did, how would you recommend I respond?
Why do you say that? But I wasn't going to get anywhere with him, so it was a short interview, really short.
Yeah, I can imagine. Bit of left field question. Do you have social media?
No, I don't do social media.
Have you ever tried it?
No, I mean, I tried. I tell you what I did do. I was so enraged by a Twitter comment, this is a long time ago, that my daughter had picked up and become distressed by, that I went on Twitter aiming to combat it, and then my better self warned me not to, and so I didn't. And that's the only time I've ever tried, because otherwise you'd stay enraged 24/7. I mean, there are very, very funny things on Twitter, and great feeds, and clever people. But you know as well as I do, there are some people who should never, ever get oxygen that are on there as well.
100%. Well, the reason why I ask is because I went to Twitter the other day to tell people I was doing this interview, and I got more than 100 responses, people eager to ask you questions. So I pulled out a few. We'll do a quick fire and see what you say. First, a journalist you admire and why?
Off the top of my head, David Farrier, who's just written a fantastic takedown of the bonkers people that run the lingerie company that have gone to QAnon and down that rabbit hole. I'm really admiring him today. I'll admire somebody else tomorrow. We're really blessed in New Zealand. There are some great journalists. I love what Stuff's doing at the moment. I love what Newsroom's doing. I love what Spin-Off's doing, and Radio New Zealand and yourself. And I was listening to Marnie Dunlop on Midday Report the other day, and thinking, God, how amazing it is to have a journalist who can seamlessly go from Maori to English without breaking stride. I think that's a marvellous thing.
Okay, next. What part of your job do you most enjoy?
Being on air and talking to people who are interesting, you know. And hopefully we only put the people on air who are interesting. And I really love it. It's a privilege to do that. I can't sometimes believe they pay me to do that, but nevertheless they do.
And last Twitter question, what is your favourite book? Do you have one?
Yeah. I keep on saying this, and I'm going to have to change it because, you know, surely to God I'll grow out of it at some stage. But it's still Henry James' Portrait of a Lady.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's old school. Sentences go on forever. He uses semicolons a lot. I did an interview about semicolons last week. Henry James came up in that. And it's about a woman called Isabel Archer who becomes seduced by a bad man. And then her sense of duty makes her stay with him. But it's, you know, it's all very beautiful and it's sort of anti-romantic in a peculiar kind of way. And it's sufficiently complicated for me to be able to read it again and again sometimes.
Okay. I want to talk about your life before radio. You lived in a place called Shropshire. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Shropshire in England.
Yeah.
What was life like in Shropshire?
Shropshire is one of the most rural counties in England, and it's on the border of Wales. And so it's, you know, rolling hills and lots of large animals grazing. And it was rural, countrified. Biggest town, Shrewsbury, which is not very big.
Okay. And you moved here when you were 15.
Yes.
Did you want to move?
No. I mean, it was kind of exciting. The prospect was kind of exciting. But no, I mean, I didn't really want to move.
Why did your family move?
My father was a vet, a large animal vet, and my mother was the adventurous kind. And Britain had just experienced its foot and mouth epidemic, and a lot of cows had been killed, basically. And so vet practices were downsizing. And New Zealand, at that stage, was advertised as the land of milk and honey to potential immigrants. And so they signed up, got a
And
job.
you came here.
Yeah.
What did you think of New Zealand?
Well, I was in
as a
Otorohanga,
15-year-old?
right?
Yeah.
My first year was in Otorohanga.
Wow. What was that like?
Pretty savage, you know, pretty brutal, actually. I got beaten up at school, and I had no idea what was going on.
Is it because you were deemed different, or because
Yeah, I
you'd
was
come?
white and spoke funny and was a swot. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, it was unpleasant, but thinking back on it, you know, everybody gets bullied to some extent. That was my bullying year.
Okay.
And then I moved, not because I was being bullied, we just all moved to Stratford. And that was, I don't know, I got the hang of things a bit more. It was hard, it's hard to get the hang of things in a new country. Also, you kind of think New Zealand's a bit the same, but it's so not the same. And so all your assumptions are taken away. It's a radically different country from the one I was brought up in.
You worked at a bar before your start in Gisborne at RNZ.
I did a what?
Did you work at a bar?
Oh,
I've read it
yes,
somewhere.
God, yes.
And how was that? Did you enjoy that?
Yeah,
was that
yeah,
your
that was
student living?
Yeah. No, well, I worked in a couple of bars. I worked in a bar in Christchurch while I was doing the journalism postgrad.
Right.
But before that, before I signed up for journalism, I was working in a bar in Tairua, which is no longer there, tragically. It was called the Sir George Grey Hotel. Probably wouldn't be called the Sir George Grey Hotel anymore. No. But that was a blast. I loved it. I
Okay.
loved it.
What made you apply for
Money.
broadcasting
Oh,
school?
broadcasting.
Not money, I'm guessing.
No, I didn't. I tell you what I did. I applied for librarian school.
Okay.
That's how, you know, I thought, I like books. And so I applied for they wisely turned me down. And I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. I had a useless BA, just a stupid, useless BA. And a friend said, why don't you apply for journalism school? And I thought, oh, all right then. So I did. And Brian Peasley thought I was a bit of a boho because, you know, he's worked in a bar, worked in a massage parlour. He thought I was an intriguing personality. I turned out to be incredibly, boringly middle class. But before he discovered that, it was too late and I was on the course.
Did you love journalism immediately, or did it grow on you?
It grew on me because I hadn't found what I was supposed to be doing. And I didn't find what I was supposed to be doing really until I left radio, went to work for Nelson Evening Mail, which was, and and then you were able to calibrate yourself and the work you do. I mean, radio, when you first joined it, it's pump, pump, pump.
Yeah.
You don't know anything about anything. And
So it was at the Nelson Mail?
Nelson Evening Mail, which was, and I worked there, and then I went overseas and worked for newspapers there.
So you found your love for journalism there?
Yeah.
Okay, and what was that moment? Did you speak to someone particularly admirable, or what was it that made you realise this is what I want to do?
I think because of the way I was brought up, I had a certain reverence for print, for starters, which has passed over the years because I have an even greater reverence for radio. But stories mattered. And I remember one story I did, and it was a terrible story about people who died as a result of a kayaking accident. And in my report, I had miscalculated the height of the river, and I had reported that the river was higher than it actually was. And thereby, I had made the kayakers look foolish and risky.
For going there?
For going there. And I can remember the moment where somebody rang me and said, "You've got it wrong. The river was nowhere near that height. How dare you suggest that they shouldn't have gone into the river?" And somebody was sitting across from me, and they said my face went white. And I've never felt so bad, because I felt like I was disrespecting the people who had died. That's a wound that's never healed. But also, it made me realise how much it matters. And especially in a place like Nelson, it really mattered. And that gave me, I'm thinking tearing up now, because it was such a harsh lesson to learn. But it taught me that it really matters.
You're still doing radio all these years later.
Yeah.
You moved to when you were 15, and you're still doing it every week.
Well, I didn't start radio until I was 20-something or other. But yeah, I'm still doing it. Thank you for reminding me.
And why are you still doing it? Are you doing it because you're still fascinated by people, and that, I guess, that fascination, that passion's
It's such a
still
good job, right? I mean, it's a job that I should be able to incorporate more into another life. But it does take over quite a lot. A lot of kind of reading and thinking and doing stuff. But it is a great job. Talking to people who hopefully want to talk to you. And on Saturday mornings, I don't have to do politics. In fact, we don't do politics, because politics is everywhere else.
Yeah.
So we can do everything but politics. The other thing about Saturday mornings is that if you do something too contentious, you can only revisit it a week later, which is not ideal, really, especially with the speed things are moving now.
Yeah.
So we tend not to do things that require some kind of right of reply. But yeah. What was the question? Do I still like it? Yes, I do.
If you weren't doing radio, what would you want to do?
Well, look, I always wanted to be an actor. I didn't always want to be an actor.
Really?
I was pathologically shy as a child. My mother was into Amdram.
Yeah.
She was quite, flamboyant. And she used to make me try and go on stage and
So
do
a
stuff.
theatre actor or TV?
Theatre.
Okay.
And so I would be the person with spectacles on sitting in the corner reading a book.
Yeah.
But when I went to Gisborne on that first Radio New Zealand job, there was a woman called Ray Skirm, who people will remember. She was just a mainstay of the local amateur dramatic society. And they were putting on a play, and she said to me, "Oh, and you'll be in it." And I said, "No." She said, yes, you're on radio, it'll be fine. And I just loved it. And then when I went to Greymouth, I did it again. I just loved it. And I thought, oh my God, I love it. And then, I got too old, and then it got too hard, and then I never did anything about it, which would have been, quite a perilous career path.
Yeah.
But I think that would be what I would be inclined to do. Not so much different from what I do now, really, is being on stage.
Performing, right?
Performing.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you sing?
Oh, no.
You don't sing?
No.
So it wouldn't be musical acting.
It wouldn't be musicals.
Okay.
I don't sing, and neither do I dance. So I'm kind of a one-trick pony.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
It's a pleasure.